Hello class and welcome to Leadership 2263. We're going to talk about Module 7 here, Building Global Leadership for Individuals. So let's get started. Research shows that several implications for successful global leadership. And since this whole module is grouped around 9 different global practices. So we're going to talk about each of them a little bit more in depth throughout this lecture. The first one is make a lifelong commitment to developing yourself and learning from others. Expand your cultural self-awareness. Take steps to get out of your comfort zone. Seek understanding before judging. Show boundless curiosity. Develop empathy. Maintain your ethical core. Learn to integrate differences and build your global team. And specifically focus on their skill sets. Make sure you have the right people that can get the work done. When it comes to global leadership, these are 9 practices that we've seen help people to be successful leaders over time. So let's get started. Principle number 1, make a lifelong commitment to developing yourself and learning from others. Developing yourself and learning from others implies that you have a desire to learn about yourself and also cultural awareness from other people. It means that you're willing to ask questions. It means that you're willing to listen to the answers. And it means that you're willing to reach out to multiple sources, multiple people to try to gather information so you can use that information to make decisions. And all of this is very important when it comes to globalization because so much about other people who are not from our culture is different from us. And it requires that we ask questions and be willing to listen and be willing to accept the answers of other people if we're going to grow as leaders. When it comes to us growing and learning, there are some biases that are implicit with human beings. And here are 3 of them: confirmation bias, selection bias, and post hoc rationalization. Confirmation bias is a tendency to search for information, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms your pre-existing belief. It proves that this type of cognition bias is systematic error of inductive reasoning. So with this type of bias, you already have an idea, an answer, a belief in your mind. And while people go out to gather information, they would say that, oh, I'm being objective, but really what they're looking to do is to confirm what they already know. It reminds me of a saying that there was a guy in the marketing department, a vice president of marketing, and he said, I know customers want this product, so go out and find me the data to prove it. Confirmation bias. Selection bias. Selection bias is the bias introduced by the selection of individuals, groups, or data for analysis in such a way that proper randomization is not achieved, thereby ensuring that the sample obtained is not representative of the population intended to be analyzed. It's sometimes referred to as selection effect. Well, what this is talking about, to put it in layman's words, is if you want to, let's say I want to get the answers am I a good teacher? So I wait till the semester ends. I find all the students who earned A's in my class, and I go ask them the question, is Dr. Vesey a good teacher? Well, chances are I'm going to get the answer yes from each of those individuals because they've each got positive grades in the class. If I wanted to get a better understanding of the reality, I would select individuals randomly. So I'd look at the whole class and I'd randomly select people. That way, people who had got good grades and those who got poor grades have an equal chance of being selected. And it's that process of randomization, according to statistics, which allows for information to be objective. Now, we're not going to get into all the statistical assumptions and everything underneath that, but just understand that randomization, when you're trying to get information and you have a pool of people that you're going to interview, survey, or what have you, randomly selecting the individuals from that pool is critical to getting information that would objectively reflect reality. The last one here is post hoc rationalization, and this is arriving at a conclusion based on a faulty set of facts. So in this scenario, you're looking at some data, and then you conclude this must be the right thing based off of that data. So, but that data, in fact, may or may not have anything to do with the true outcome. An example would be, man, my favorite baseball team won their game, when I wore my red sneakers and purple shirt. I don't wear these clothes very often, and I realized that not only did they win last week, but they won this week too, and I wore my same red sneakers and purple shirt. Therefore, I must always wear my red sneakers and purple shirt if I want the team to win. See, I'm looking at a set of facts, right? They're facts and they're true, and I'm drawing a conclusion from them when really those facts have nothing to do with the actual outcome of what's going on. And you'd be surprised how many times people do that. They post hoc rationalize. They say, okay, they look at the outcome, they'll go back and find a set of facts and figures that preceded it and conclude this must be the cause. And in actuality, simple existence of facts does not denote causality. Now, when it comes to being a good manager, there's one thing that virtually everybody agrees on, and it's kind of codified in the book here that Liz Whiteman talks about rookie smarts or having the rookie mindset. And the rookie mindset is the mindset that says that I'm open for change. I realize that I'm new here, so I'm going to listen to other people. I'm going to engage with other people. I'm going to step out and take a chance. I'm going to be, open to new experiences. And you tend to see that with a person who's new to a team. Let's say they're new to a basketball team or new to a baseball team, or they're a rookie, right? They're just first freshmen in college and they're starting off on the football team. Well, they come in, they have a mindset that's open and malleable and flexible. They have their skills, and they have their talents, they have their own history, but their mindset is open to the new experiences that are emerging. So Ms. Wiseman breaks it down into four different components. The backpacker, who's willing to leave their comfort zone. This is a person that understands that leaving their comfort zone is going to be important to being successful. Okay, the hunter-gatherer. This is a person who's willing to gather and track down new information from unexpected sources, gather this information and use it for self-improvement. The firewalker. This is a person who's willing to take chances that might seem a bit impossible, right? They proceed with caution, but they move forward anyway. And the pioneer. This is a person who's willing to explore new ideas, embrace unpredictability, and is willing to just step out and take a chance. These are the four components of the rookie mindset. Here's some additional components, and these are not highlighted specifically in Liz Wiseman's book, but there are also some additional components that are important to being a successful global leader. One is that you're mindful of other people. This means being considerate of the needs of others and being willing to try to help them meet their needs. Curious, you have this undying curiosity, this willingness to seek out new information. You see something that's interesting, different, or strange, and you're willing to go investigate it to see what's going on. Playful, a person that believes that work is play, that work is fun, and that's how they approach work and they engage it. And you can imagine a person who believes that work is an absolutely miserable task that they don't want to go do is going to respond very different in their actions and behaviors to a person that sees work as being fun and an enjoyable place to be. Deliberate, a person who's deliberate and purposeful about his or her actions. Energetic, you have a sense of excitement about the work, and you're excited about being there, excited about doing what you want to do. And humble, this means that you're willing to be evaluated by others and willing to seek out and listen to their opinions. Principle number 2, expanding your cultural self-awareness. Cultural awareness starts by understanding your own culture and your own biases and how those translate to other people. Second part of cultural awareness is learning the differences between your culture and other cultures. Third challenge of cultural awareness is understanding nonverbal languages, especially behaviors, because the nonverbal languages across countries and cultures can be drastically different. Whether it's understanding your cultural awareness, we're talking about understanding the cultural awareness of other people, or nonverbal language, power, alignment, friendship, and lying, all of it comes into play. You need to understand when that's taking place and how that's taking place. It's also important to note that there's another difference between cultures of those that are high context and polychronic cultures. This is one particular type. And then you have another context of culture that's low context and monochronic. Let's talk about this briefly. High context cultures, they require a lot of explanation. They want to know everything that's going on and understand the entire situation. So people tend to seek a great deal of information before they're willing to act. They're also polychronic, In this example, and polychronic means that they're very linear in their thinking. There's very focused on black and white, what's right versus what is wrong, good versus bad, very strong definitions around time. If you're not there 5 minutes early, you're late. So high context polychronic cultures tend to reflect a lot of European cultures. American culture tends to be that way as well. England, France, a lot of the European cultures. Low context cultures that are monochronic means that these are cultures where people are willing to act and behave when they don't have all the information, or there's unclarity, there's a lack of clarity of information. They're still willing to engage in problem solving and making decisions. And monochronic refers to the tendency to be fluid with your understanding of time, rules, and facts, to understand that while some things may be black and white, the vast majority of things in this world fall in the gray category. That in some situations, doing the wrong thing could actually be the right thing. It just depends on what's going on. So, and also when it comes to time, monochronic cultures tend to be individuals who lean more toward multitasking and who are more fluid in understanding in their time orientations, meaning that they would say, if I got there within 5 minutes of being late or 10 or 15 minutes of being late, it's not a big deal. The meeting's still going to take place, and we got we achieved the goal. Now, whether we achieved the goal right at 8 o'clock or we achieved it at 8:30 is not as important as achieving the goal. So monochronic cultures tend to be a bit more fluid with their understanding of time. Principle number 3, take steps to get out of your comfort zone. Working with people from your own background is easy and predictable. This changes when working with people from different cultures and different backgrounds. This reality is magnified when you live abroad. In Hong Kong, people who come out to work at 9 a.m. and then take an hour and a half break plus naps. When it comes to leaving your comfort zone, you should ask yourself a few questions. What's the worst thing that could happen if you tried it? Right? Or you could start with small changes and grow from there. You could think of change differently. You could think of change as a role that you put on or off. So when I'm in one situation, I act in this role. When I'm in a different situation, I act in that role. And instead of thinking it as you're changing your core person who you are, you think of it more so as clothing, in a sense that when you're faced with certain situations or you're in certain cultures, you put on certain type of clothing to fit in or to accomplish your goal. Likewise, when you go to a different culture, you switch clothing as again to accomplish your goal in that particular culture. Principle number 4, seek understanding before seeking judgment. The most important part of any communication is understanding. This is even more important when it comes to communicating with people from different cultures. Research shows that people tend to judge quickly, and in doing so, may make inaccurate assessments. We also tend to make attributes about others to internal causes and external causes. So what we mean by this is, if a person seeks understanding first, and they're going to try to gather information about the situation before rushing to judgment. There's a story I can tell. There's a guy that was in a car. He was driving very quickly and very recklessly down the street, and he got to a stoplight at a very busy intersection, so he had to stop. He had previously ran a few other red lights. Well, while he was at the stoplight, the person in the car next to him that had pulled up in the car next to him could see that he was slapping this child in the face. Slap, slap, slap. Completely taken off and upset the fact that this grown man would be slapping the child in the face, the person in car B called the police. Just so happened the police were right around the corner, and they quickly pulled up, put their sirens on, and pulled the man over. Finally, the person in car B said, "We're going to get some justice for this child." As the person in car A jumps out the car and runs to the police officer, and he says, police officer, I need your help. We have to get to the hospital urgently. My child fell off a tree and hit his head, and I was told to never let them go to sleep when they've been hit in the head. We must get them to the hospital. I've been doing all I can to keep the child awake, so I've been slapping them in the face while I've been driving to keep him from going to sleep. Well, that puts a whole different context on the situation. Person in car B assumed that there was something untoward going on, something improper, simply because he looked at what was going on. But what he didn't do was seek a full understanding. So many times things are not exactly as they appear, and we should be cautious to reserve our judgment until we understand the full context of a situation, particularly when it comes to different cultures, because the same action in one culture could be interpreted as a positive thing, whereas that action in a different culture can be interpreted as a negative thing. Another component of this is when we tend to look at what other people do, and let's say there's person A and yourself, and person A engaged in a certain behavior, we tend to assume that they did that reason because something inside of them, right? And that's why they made that mistake. That's why they did this improper action. Now, when we make a mistake or do an improper action, people tend to look outside themselves, find other reasons, let's say external factors. Oh, I did it because such and such gave me no choice. So this mistake or behavior that I engaged in does not reflect my core of who I am. It reflects the situation, which I had no control over. However, when we look at other people, we tend to say, they did it because that's who they are, not taking in totality the entire situation, and the situational context may have significant influence on why the person engaged in the behavior that they did. It's a tendency of human behavior to make judgments like that. We judge people from our own, when we judge people from our own cultural framework, we tend to engage those differences with harsher punishments, with harsher decisions, and we look at them in a manner that's from our own cultural framework, but we're not taking into consideration the cultural framework of other people. Some common examples of that would be gender discrimination, pay inequity, and crime and punishment. Understanding does not mean agreement. Many times an agreement is not necessary in order to have a peaceful outcome to a situation. It just requires a full understanding of what's taking place in all sides. Principle number 5, show boundless curiosity. Curiosity means having the desire and motivation to learn about other cultures, especially about management practices in those cultures, so that one can take steps to gain a better understanding of the culture. Some things that typically keep people from being curious is lack of interest. They just don't really care about the other culture. If you're not interested in China, then guess what? Understanding Chinese culture is going to be challenging for you to engage in. Having a superior attitude towards other cultures, when you think that your culture is better, the way you're doing things is the right way to do things, then that also presents difficulty to be curious and also seek understanding of other cultures and other people. And failure to see any value in other cultures. When you think that other cultures just have no particular value to offer you, there's nothing for you to learn from them, there's nothing for you to benefit or gain from yourself by engaging with these people from other cultures, we tend to lack curiosity. Principle number 6, develop empathy. Empathy is defined as the ability to understand and share the feelings of other people. Global leaders should learn to place themselves in the shoes of other people. This is very important if you're going to be a global leader, because it may help you to understand why a person engages in certain behaviors. If you could put yourself in their shoes and at the same time seek to understand their culture. Global leaders can prime themselves to show cognitive empathy by adapting a perspective-seeking approach by asking several questions. Imagine looking at the situation through the other person's eyes and being in their shoes. How would you see the situation? And this implies that you're taking in consideration their cultural context. What might the situation look like from their point of view? How would they explain it? What might be going on in the minds of these other people, and how could they explain why they're behaving the way they're behaving? A key part is also listening. Learning to be empathetic requires that you engage in active listening. Active listening can be defined as the tendency to be present when a person is talking, to give them your focus and your attention. There are 3 components, we'd say, of effective listening. They are attending, so paying attention to what's being said; following, focus on what the person is saying; use follow-up questions to seek a better understanding if you don't fully understand what they said; and reflecting. Take time to think about what they said and to allow it to decode into understanding within your mind. Repeat back the message if you need to. Ask clarifying questions if required until an understanding is achieved. Principle number 7, maintain your ethical core. Working overseas means managers are thousands of miles away from headquarters. This makes it easy to behave unethically. especially when there are local cultural pressures. When in doubt, ask your management for advice. So if you don't know if a situation is right or wrong, ethical or unethical, get on the phone, get on email, present the scenario to someone else who is in charge or someone who's superior to you and get their feedback. Unethical actions tend to create short-term benefits with long-term costs to the company in terms of reputation and income. The U.S. Foreign Corrupt Practices Act makes it illegal for employees in an organization doing business in the U.S. or for a U.S. corporation to engage in bribery except for certain facilitation payments. Principle number 8, learn to integrate differences. Integrating differences means creating a win-win solution where differences and conflicts may arise without disrespecting or denying the viewpoints of other people. There are lots of negotiation styles. We talked about some as part of this module, as part of Module 6. The expanding pie versus the fixed pie mindset. The expanding pie believes that there's always ways to work it so both parties can leave with what they need, and you may introduce new elements into that negotiation in order to kind of expand the resources that are part of that negotiation experience. A fixed pie is the opposite. They believe that this is all it is, and the more I get, the less you get. Therefore, we're going to enter into a competing style of interaction with one another. Different people bring different perspectives, so use cultural diversity to aid you in the exploration of problems. Encourage conversation and collaboration. Also allow time for the negotiations. Allow time to generate ideas and to find solutions that you may not have otherwise thought of if you're in a high pressure situation. And lastly, always seek to understand every party that's involved in the negotiation experience. Principle number 9, build your team and your team's global skill set. More and more companies are competing in global arenas. To this extent, having a global diverse team is very important. Companies are going out of their way to build global leadership, diverse teams. In many organizations, you cannot become a senior leader without actually having some type of international experience. Aspects of a global team. Increased diversity also means increased conflict. And we spoke about this in other modules, is that there's types of conflicts. There's functional conflict and dysfunctional conflict. As long as you can gear that conflict towards the processes that are used to make the decisions or toward the actual tasks themselves, the conflict that arises from diversity will tend to help you make better decisions. Increased diversity also means longer decision cycles. Because people are so different, it's going to take longer to make that decision. You're going to have to figure out how to work through your differences in order to make the right decisions or arrive at those decisions. And that's going to take more time. New technologies makes working across longer distances easier. It makes it easier to find diverse team members and integrate them into a team. There are 4 components of an effective global team. 1 is that there must be a compelling vision that's well defined. This comes from the leadership. There has to be high levels of member trust. The people in the team must be able to trust and rely on one another. The skill sets must be complementary, meaning that you got to have the right skill sets, but they also have to work together in unison so that the team can function, kind of like gears that are working. They're 2 different gears, but they complement each other. And it's because they're interlocked and they're spinning, you're able to achieve the outcome. And reliable and effective team practices. You have to have practices in place to help the team maintain its trust and maintain its cohesiveness, and also understand the rules of engagement in terms of how they work together so they can be successful. That wraps it up for this lecture. If there's any questions, please be sure to send me an email or let me know. Thank you very much and have a good day.